So, Aaron, how do we go forward? I may be kicking Rec Veras to the next week's show if we don't, which he's nodding okay to, even though he got up early and brought his fiddle. How do we go forward? You mentioned something akin to there's a little bit of a disconnect, if not dissatisfaction, on the veterans against the war part with the rest of the peace movement, and I get that at times. I mean, there's your experience is your experience, and none of us match it. You have each other, which is a great probably solace and some commiseration. However, we do need to work, combat veterans and citizens alike, to pressure our government to stop this wrong policy. And there's a lot of convincing that needs to occur. People are adamantly ignorant about the supposed reasons for the invasions. There's a lot of rumors. Oh yeah, it's for oil, and we're in Afghanistan because it's the roadway to get the oil out of one place and into another. And all of the other minerals and riches that Afghanistan has. So, where do you see progress towards changing the mindset of fellow Americans on this? Or where is the place that the most work should be done at this point?
Well, the way, I guess that was a big question. So
I know.
I'm sorry that my answers have been long.
Could you please solve the problems of our nation for me? And we have about 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, real quick. One, I think everyone has to do a lot of work on acknowledging our own privilege. And veterans, like a part of the process of becoming and speaking out is acknowledging your role as an oppressor, your role as oppressing these people, and coming out and saying, you know what, I was wrong. And I think within but where there's still a lot of cultural differences and spaces where GI is coming from. I mean, we're coming from the most sexist, racist, homophobic institution in the United States. So it makes sense that that we don't necessarily always present ourselves in light, but that doesn't mean that people can't grow and transform and go through a transformative process and come to some of the realizations that people have that are in the peace movement and some of the progressive ideas that are involved with the peace movement. There's no reason that people can't get there, but you can't start where people aren't. You got to start where people are, and you got to start where the GIs and veterans are, and we're the labor force that are perpetuating this war. And if we're going to end this war, we need GIs and veterans to stand up and say, we're not fighting this war anymore. And there's a lot of work that we can do to create space to helping them. And currently, IVAW has been doing a lot of work to really dig down deep and ask ourselves, what is it going to take to build a campaign to accomplish that? We went through a massive training with the Immokalee workers. I don't know if folks know them here, but they led a poor people's campaign that won living wages for farm workers in Florida. The United Workers, who we did a training with them, who won living wage for day laborers in Baltimore. And we're learning how do these people win? And I think the peace movement needs to say, how do people win? How have people won? Because that's the energy, that's the organizing work, and it hasn't been through symbolic actions. It hasn't been through it hasn't been through having your picture in the paper. It's been through organizing, and organizing a constituency that is the force that's perpetuating the issue. And I think that's where our work needs to go. And IVAW needs a lot of help in individuals standing in solidarity and supporting this community, and even all these GIs that aren't involved with IVAW, veterans that are getting home. What's their story? Maybe not ask them what they think of the war, but what's your story?
Right.
Because once people start telling their story and realize that people care, that's how I came to this.
Right.
It wasn't because I was angry, mad, I was against the war, but I wasn't out there speaking out against it. Mm-hmm. And it was only until people asked me to tell my story, tell what I thought. There's not one pro-war veteran story out there. I mean, there's just not. Even in the VFW halls of today, you go in there and they just tell you how bad the situation is. I mean, and I think that there's something there that we can catalyze on and mobilize and support people. And I don't know if, in closing, I can read a little poem.
Sure. Please.
This is it's something I wrote when I was on my way back to Iraq. Anxious. Anxiety sits in my throat and in my heart. Such a beautiful opportunity. Such a beautiful dream to sit and have tea with Iraqis. I'm so honored to be here on this trip, flying into the night, into the darkness of the unknown, where one spark of light can light up the whole.
Aaron Hughes, Iraq Veterans Against the War. I think we're going to have to revisit this with you. How
I'd
do
love to be
people here on the ground who have not been to the war but who are really concerned about it and concerned about the well-being of the veterans, the many veterans returning, how do we best support this unfolding that you just described?
Well, I think you go to U.S. Labor Against the War, look at their website, look at what they're doing. If you're
Say that one more time.
Go to U.S. Labor Against the War's website. If you're in a union, get your union involved. They just have a petition that just went up around the working rights of the individuals that are being persecuted in Iraq, and that's one thing and a way we can stand in solidarity with the Iraqi people. 2, there's a new organization forming called Civilian Soldier Alliance, and you guys can Google that. It's civsol.org,
Okay.
and they're an intentional ally organization to Iraq Veterans Against the War.
Okay.
And it's similar to how the Student Farm Worker Alliance is aligned with the Immokalee workers.
Okay.
And I think they have a lot of a really good perspective on like how to support and develop, because it's always been allies. During Vietnam, it wasn't the Vietnam Veterans Against the War were not by themselves. It was Dave Dillinger. It was other folks that were standing by their side and helping them grow, helping them learn, helping them get involved, and listening to their stories. And I think like there's a lot of GIs on these campuses that aren't being heard. There's a lot of veterans that are on these campuses that are out there. There's a lot of veterans that are walking these streets, and there's a lot of veterans that like right now there's 3 GI coffee houses. You were talking about the coffee house movement.
Right.
And supporting those coffee houses, go to underthehood.org. I just got back from Fort Hood last night at 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean, the work that they're doing down there to support war resistors, the number of soldiers that have gone AWOL and then they're turning themselves in, and how do they get on honorable discharge because they went AWOL because they couldn't get help for PTSD. You know, they only have one lawyer that's helping them. Like, if you have a lawyer, like, give them support, get a hold with them,
Wow.
Get connected with the National Lawyers Guild and their military law task force, get connected with Courage to Resist, get plugged in with these organizations that are directly organizing, working with the constituency that's directly involved.
You know what I'm happy about? I'm happy that it was Vietnam Veterans Against the War that provided you a space to tell your story and to unite with other people. And just shows to Goya, that was 40 years ago that organization kicked off. And they're still around, helping their brothers and sisters, and I'm proud of them, and I'm deeply proud of you. And thank you so much, Aaron.
Thank you. And a shout out to Barry Romo from Vietnam Veterans Against the War. He's 63 today.
Barry Romo, happy birthday, our good friend. Rick, would you like to play a tune on your fiddle while we talk about going out? Thanks,
Thank you
Aaron.
very much.
Please
Thanks for
come
having
back
me.
again. And the newspaper that you're carrying is called The Veteran, and it's available here at the Heartland.